Hello everyone, welcome to my Session 8 Teaching Memo and Session 9 Introduction. I hope you all had a wonderful Thanksgiving, and for those of you who like taking risks, I hope you survived Black Friday. Today is Cyber Monday. I must check my email to see if there are some deals for me out there. I am definitely an armchair shopper. Also, condolences to all of you Jets fans out there. Even a weakened and hobbled Tom Brady seems to be good enough to win. Okay, on to work. Housekeeping. I've tried to keep the workload purposely light the last 2 weeks in order to allow you to create, revise, take, and give feedback to your peers. It appears most of you are getting the hang of the process, which will continue this session. I would also advise anyone to start looking ahead to completing your vocabulary in your own words, which is due during the last session. And the 3-part analytic summary, take a look at that. It's in the assignments for the last session, and be taking notes on this process, because that's what you're going to be reflecting on at the end. How did it go? What did you learn? What would you reteach? Etc., etc. I'm always concerned about people not participating in the group process. That's why I started grading these feedback discussion boards, because some people were just blowing them off, but now they count towards your overall select the response test grade. Not a big percentage. I think it's like 1 or 2% for each of these revision for your first revision, and then for your second feedback discussion board. Each one of those is worth 2% towards the total of your discussion board of your select the response test grade. So keep that in mind. Make sure you and do that. Session 8, last week I introduced information about the Every Student Succeeds Act, or Every Student Succeeds Act, or ESSA of 2015, and compared to some of the mandates of the older No Child Left Behind. I know many of my students still believe No Child Left Behind is in effect, but it isn't. The federal government has given more of the decision-making power back to the states, where it belongs. Unfortunately, with the pushback on the Common Core and the NAEP results that we discussed last week, indicates that when states are allowed to set their own standards and have their own proficiency levels, you'll see a wide disparity on what kids are learning and what is proficient in states throughout the whole country. And I, for one, believe that should be the same high standard for everybody. And that's where the Common Core came from, and that's why it came about. But people tied the Common Core into the APPR, which is in the Heidi scores, which were the federal government tied into Race to the Top funds a couple years ago, and made, in order to get this money, you had to use state testing to evaluate teachers. And as some of you have probably read in the papers, Governor Cuomo and the regents, members of the Board of Regents, were upset that only 1% of teachers received the Heidi score of 1. And as I mentioned, it's predicted by the widget effect. If you click on this link, you'll see what the widget effect is, that over 95% of teachers are evaluated proficient by administrators. So that's one of the reasons why even the APPR will not affect how teachers are evaluated, because the biggest percentage of that Heidi score is administrator evaluations. The information on the National Assessment of Educational Progress, NAEP, is also important because, as I mentioned, the state-to-state comparisons were made that were made, and what impetus for the creation of national standards. And as you know, they're already being rejected by many states. because it's being tied to some political process, like it's some kind of liberal thing that people put on, but it wasn't. It was created by the Governor's Council and really had nothing to do with the liberal anything. So, but it's something that the conservatives have latched onto as something they want to get rid of. Okay. This session is one of the more teacher relevant because it deals with a topic that is often front and center in the media and educational literature, test preparation practices. And even though the federal government has backed off on the accountability that states need in connecting it with teacher evaluations, schools are still being found to be in need of progress. And that's a New York State thing, and it's tied into the test scores. So our state tests are still being tied into schools and school districts' accountability. Matter of fact, in Poughkeepsie here, our middle school is one of those schools that's deemed to be in receivership. The superintendent for now is the receiver, but if they don't keep improving, then someone else will take over that receivership. So so as I mentioned in my presentation, you can be assured that these tests are not going away. Now that Questar is creating our state assessments and NYSET is calling for more teacher involvement, hopefully the tests will be improved. But you absolutely cannot pass along your distaste of them to your students. You need to check out the articles in Session 9, Course Materials Handouts. There are ways to help your students not be stressed and to feel more confident when test day comes around. It is your job to know them. In interviewing teaching candidates for possible hire, as a former high school principal, I would ask you about methods for preparing students for tests and for relieving the inevitable stress that may result. So it would behoove you to know these. I mean, you're doing a disservice to your students if you don't. And you also need to incorporate some of those articles into your double entry journal that's due at the end of this week. This week you'll submit your double entry journal on Chapter 8 and Popham. This is your last double entry journal. It's weighted the most. I only have 2 now. I used to have 3. So this is weighted more than the first one you did naturally, because use your feedback to improve. Make sure you're using a conversational writing style. You're not doing note-taking, that you're supporting your comments with evidence from the text. You're connecting to the text. You're connecting to yourself as a teacher/learner. You're giving strong opinions. So I don't want to see, this is what the author said. This is what the other author said. This is what the author said. This is what the other author said. That's not what I'm looking for. I don't want you regurgitating this information. I want you to have a dialogue with the text and with me. Don't forget to also mention my presentation. Just a reminder that I will not start counting you for timeliness on this revised test, uploading your revised test. Those of you that I've done one group in each of the 2 sections. I've given feedback to one group 1 in one section, and I think 23, it's group 4. I've given you feedback on that. It's pretty much the same for everybody. So you can check the general comments, but I'm actually commenting on your draft test. So you're going to have to download that and open it up to see what I have to say in it. So that's it. That's it for this week. I will talk to you again next Monday.